Okay, all right. So we are live on Facebook. So let us begin our bi-weekly Sutra discussion by paying respect and homage to the Buddha. Let us recite Namo Tassa 3 times together. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I pay my respect and homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened Buddha. All right, so I would like to give a warm welcome to all our venerable monks. Today we don't have any nuns yet. So I had a very productive and meaningful trip to Bangladesh. So I'm very happy to be back at our temple in Toronto. So in my absence, Bhante Kusala, together with all of you, continued to conduct this bi-weekly Sutra discussion. I think in my absence, you conducted the 50th and 51st the sessions. And today we are doing the 52nd bi-weekly Sutra discussions. So for this discussion, we have the presence of Venerable Sarvapala Thero from Vancouver, Canada. And then we have Bhante Katugasatu Paratana Nayaka Hamduru joining from Washington, D.C. Then we have Venerable Trudeau joining the discussion from Florida. And we have Bhante Kusala joining the discussion from Boston. We have Venerable Shanta Sobana joining the discussion from Los Angeles. We have Venerable Digali Somwangsho joining the discussion from Vancouver. And we have Venerable Kalubovil Ananda joining the discussion from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And we don't have any other monks. Oh yeah, Bhante Sumedha joining the discussion from Ottawa. So I would like to give you all a warm welcome with the blessings of the Buddha, Dhamma, the Sangha. And also I would like to give a warm welcome to our devotees who are joining this discussion on the Zoom platform and who are also watching this program on Facebook Live. So today we don't have the opportunity to give this YouTube Live because our assistant is not here. Normally he has a program where he distributes this discussion to different channels. So those who are watching this program on Facebook, I would like all of you to share this program in your social media timeline for the greater benefit of your friends and colleagues and for everyone around the world. So today we are going to do the discussion based on a sutra, the Madhupiṇḍika Sutta from the Majjhima Nikaya, and the topic is the early Buddhist analysis of conflict based on this sutta. And we are going to have a very open discussion. So if there are lay people who would like to ask you questions, please make a comment on Zoom platform, or you also can make a comment in the Facebook Live, and I will monitor all the questions and bring those questions to our venerable monks to answer. So I would like to begin the discussion with Bhante Kusala from Boston, USA, to give us an overview of this sutra, to give a summary and what regarding the early Buddhist analysis of conflict. So Bhante Kusala.
Thank you, Bhante. Welcome back. My vandana to Bhante Uparatana, Nayaka Hamdru, and Namami Sanghan to all the venerable monks here. So, Madhupiṇḍika Sutta that you have picked is a wonderful sutra for a discussion like this. As the name suggests, Madhu means something like honey. Pindika is something like a little bit like a lump. So it's translated by different people as honey cake, be something like a honey ball. Many different meanings for this title. But for now, I think the audience can take it as something sweet. And the name comes at the end of the sutra when Venerable Ananda, the attendant monk of the Buddha, approaches the Buddha and asks what the name of this sutra should be, because Venerable Ananda said it's as sweet as honey, a lump of honey, a bowl of honey. And then the Buddha says, yes, be the name. We will take it as the name of the sutra. And this is a relatively shorter discourse. In this, we have, this is number 18 of the middle length discourses of the Buddha. Here, when the Buddha went to Mahavana, the great forest, and right after finishing his meal, he sat under a wood apple tree, and here comes Dandapani. Dandapani literally means someone who has a stick in his hand. So that stick indicates that he was a little arrogant, little egoistic, and he was young, but he still had to carry this stick with him wherever he went, to debate, argue with other people. So the Buddha knew, before even this person approached the Buddha, Buddha knew his motives. And he's Sakshan himself, like the Buddha. And he also has sided with Devadatta when Devadatta caused schism in the Sasana. He comes to the Buddha and asks, what do you proclaim as your teaching? The question he asks is just basically the way he asks it prompts the Buddha to respond in such a way that I'm not here to start a conflict with you. I'm not here to start an argument with you. And this response is very short. The Buddha says, monk, a person is covered by concepts of identity that emerge from the proliferation of perception. So every person in the world, they have conclusions, opinions, and we are covered by them. And buried underneath, you find your views, your attachments, and therefore you start conflict with other people. And Dandapani, in this case, he had a strong self-view, and he wanted to win. And when the Buddha gave an answer stating that I have eradicated my defilements, therefore I do not see any point arguing with anyone. I do not see any pappañca in me. This is a very important philosophical term that we find in this sutra. Pappañca. means proliferations in English. So multiplied thoughts. And people are covered with these. And the Buddha says, deep within, I do not see my mind full of proliferations caused by sensual desire, view, any underlying tendencies toward aversion, doubt, conceit, and a desire to be reborn, any ignorance in me. Therefore, the Buddha says it has ended taking weapons and arguing with people, quarrels, disputes, accusations, divisive speech, and lies. And this is the sweetness of the sutra. The philosophy really uncovers this sweetness of a person when you have eradicated your defilements. If you have defilements, when they rise their ugly heads, like Bhante Gunaratana says, ugly heads. Defilements rise their ugly heads. That's how he likes to say it. And I love that. So when defilements are there, when they rise, it's ugly everywhere. Wherever you happen to be, you get into fights, arguments, and it's endless. So this sutra that way has a very practical meaning, and at the same time deeply profound, very deep meaning, philosophical value to it. So when the Buddha said this, what happened to Dandapani is very interesting. Let me quote this from the sutra itself. It was somewhere right here. When he had spoken, Dandapani shook his head, waggled his tongue, raised his eyebrows until his brow puckered in 3 furrows, and he departed leaning on his stick. So he could not grasp the meaning of what the Buddha said. Failed there, he left the Buddha. He left that place. He knew that there was no way that he could win this argument or start an argument with the Buddha. So the Buddha kind of gifted back the energy he brought. He did not receive it the way Dandapani brought it to the Buddha. Then later in the afternoon, that was the start of the sutra. Later in the afternoon, the Buddha shared this encounter with his students and repeated what had happened. And at that point, there were these monks, but they wanted to know more about what the Buddha said. But before they could ask any question, Buddha only said what happened between him and Dandapani, and the Buddha rose from his seat and went back to his resting kuti. So then these monks wanted to know more about what the Buddha had spoken, and they realized Venerable Kaccāna is the ideal monk. He can explain anything in detail. So they went to Venerable Kaccāna. And Venerable Kaccāna then said, you came to the wrong person. You should have asked the Buddha right there when he was there. But again, if you insist, I can explain. And Venerable Kaccāna begins to explain as he understood the meaning of the sutra. And he begins to explain by saying this very natural experience of a human being that goes with, taking, for example, your eye, dependent on eye and form and eye consciousness. Meeting of these 3, there is contact. Very simple experience of an object, but there is no experiencer here, no person here. These are still objects. But then so whatever that contact leads to pappañca vedana. It leads to a feeling, Yang vedeti tan sanjanati. Right here you see vedeti is a subjective experience, from objective something to a subjective person. This is how Venerable Katukurunde Jnanananda explains it in his book, Concept and Reality. It's available online if anyone wants to read it. There you see the difference between these objects, just mere phenomena, to a person. Yang vedeti tam sanjanati. Whatever one feels, one cognizes it. Yang sanjanati tam vitakketi. What one cognizes, they think about. What one thinks about, then they proliferate it. You not only think, you don't stop there, you proliferate it, you multiply it, you add more details into it. And that covers the mind of a person with regard to the eye, the ear, nose, tongue, the body, the mind, and all these sensory experiences work that way. And then you find that person, the subject in there, and it creates a view of a self, and it has these underlying tendencies, anusaya, such as lust, aversion, conceit, all these underlying tendencies, and they cover the person. They start conflicts in the world. And so this is how Venerable Kaccāna explained it to the monks. And he then said, go back to the Buddha. I think you better verify, clarify the meaning of the sutra from the Buddha himself. And they reported what they heard from Venerable Kaccāna to the Buddha. And the Buddha said, well, that is how I would have explained that. That Venerable Kaccāna is amazing, excellent. He responded to you very well, and he knew how to respond to you. So the Venerable Kaccāna is praised for his discourse right there by the Buddha himself. So when you read about the sutra, it says that there were other people listening when this discourse was given. For example, it's not found in the sutra, but in other sources, you find that the Shakyan called Nagita became an arahant upon listening to this sutra. So this sutra that way has an enlightening value, a value that enlightens a person. So with that note, I will end my brief introduction, opening this to other venerables. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante Kusala, for taking us through this sutra, which has some important teachings regarding how conflict begins to arise, and how we can end the conflicts arising in our life or in the society. So, looking into the sutra, we see a couple of important steps which you efficiently highlighted. How the conflicts come into being because of these the defilements, raga, patiga, ditti, vichikicca, mana, bhavaraga, avidya. And because of these, how conflicts come into being in our life. And also another important aspect of this teaching, how you highlighted, this is the definition or the explanation given by Venerable Kaccāna. Dependent on I and forms, I consciousness arises. And the meeting of the three is the contact. With contact as the requisite condition, there is feeling. What one feels, one perceives, labels in the mind. What one perceives, one thinks about. What one thinks about, one objectifies. I think this is a very key word here, the non in Pali, the pappañca. And you said Bhante Kusala pappañca, which is the multiplying a lot of stuff in the mind, and how this pappañca could cause a lot of conflicts and troublesome pains, and etc. etc. So the general audience, the people, this is something new to them. So let us make this very simple for the audience to understand. Based on these key teachings, how do we make people understand about the conflict, how it arises, and how it can be ended? So I see Bhante Ananda Kalubovila from Cambridge, Ontario raised his hand. Venerable Ananda, please.
Thank you, Bhante, and bless my respect to all the venerable monks. And we don't have nuns today. So Bhante, I just had to raise my hand because I have a very strong opinion about Madhupiṇḍika Sutta. I think it's the greatest sutras. And maybe my ideas are not the common idea, but I think that I have to voice it out. Because every time when I read the English translation on Sutta Central, it says the Sutta of quarreling. But I think it's a sort of a bad connotation, because quarreling is like you get on the street and fight with someone. But if you look at the backdrop of what happened in India, or rather the entire world during this period of time, which is the axial age, where there are a number of different ideologies, doctrines, and philosophies came out. In fact, most of the religions that we follow to date are from that axial era of Socrates, Plato, and Buddha, Jaina, Mahavira, etc. And in the backdrop of India during the Aranyaka period, there were many debates, arguments. So I don't know if they really got into the quarreling, like street fight quarreling, but I'm sure that they had extensive arguments all around India. But they were about a thesis and an antithesis. So different people have different ideologies, beliefs, and they introduce their own teaching. And in this backdrop, we find people like who believe that there is a God or there is an Atman. They were very adamant on that, and they believe that's the only single truth. And then there were people like who are skeptic or who are agnostic. And there were people who believed in multiple lanes, like Jaina Mahavira, Anekantavada, or Sanjay Vellatiputta, who had agnostic views. So among all these different ideologies, one could be easily perplexed. One could get into a perplexity, like what's the correct thing. Now, the debate could be an external debate where you have with a set of people, or it could be an internal debate within myself. What should I believe as the truth? What is the correct thing? And then I think when I'm sure Dandapani was, I'm not sure if Dandapani is the same Sakya Dandapani who was the uncle of Prince Siddhartha, or maybe a different Dandapani who was more into debating, like Sakaracharya, where they had the tradition of debating with people whenever they meet. Anyway, when Dandapani came to Buddha, I think this quarrel, the word quarrel or vivada came about. But again, if we leave the word quarreling and if we replace it with argument or debate, I think it would be much nicer. So in this, he asked, what's your debate or what's your thesis? And then Buddha replies, I do not have a thesis. And if you look at it at much later stages, where Nagarjuna in his Mula Madhyama Karika, he says, I don't have a thesis, and that is my thesis, Vitandavadi sort of argumentation. And I think, again, the Madhupiṇḍika Sutta is not a sutra that we can upfrontly understand. Even if someone's listening to this conversation, if you don't have a sort of a deep understanding of the Buddhist core teachings, like dependent arising and what's the core message of Buddhism, it's going to be a little confusing, because we have to sort of have that prerequisite knowledge before speaking Madhupiṇḍika Sutta. So according to me, what I think is that the first word, vivada, it comes from the key ideology of Buddhism that we should not get into extremes. Anta. So it's not about extremes, and it's about leaving your extremes. And the normal tendency for people is to believe in something, and religions are based on that believing in something. But on the other hand, Buddhism is about trying to understand what do you believe in, what is your extreme or belief, and then coming out of that. And so without getting into perplexion also, then we need to understand dependent arising. So dependent arising, we have the 12 links of dependent arising, or we have the idapaccheta dependent arising. When this exists, that is due to the rising of this, that arises. Iti masmin sati idang hoti, in that manner. And then when asked by Kaccāna Thero, he comes into this more detailed explanation of dependent arising. And when Dandapani asked Buddha, what is your vivada, or what's your doctrine? Buddha said, I do not have a doctrine, I only have a dependent arising. When this exists, that is. When that is not, it's not there. And so that's the first part of what I wanted to say. And the second part is, I think there's great debate. In fact, I read Bhikkhu Bodhi's explanation that about the word prapancha, that there's no real meaning to prapancha. And I'm not sure where I exactly heard it. It's probably Katakurunde Jnanananda Thero, that there's a nice explanation for prapancha is that we often find vitakka vichara together. As like those two terms come very often together, vitakka vichara. And in this sutra we have yang sanjanati vitakketi, yang vitakketi, tang papancheti. So after the vitarka, there comes the papancha. So one could even equate pappañca is equal to proliferation is equal to vichara in vitakka vichara combination. Another interesting narrative that somehow got into my head is it's like a narration. You start telling a story, prapancha karana, which means you start telling a story, and when you keep expanding that story, it proliferates in a way. So whatever based on your ignorance, you get into an extreme, and then you start proliferating that. And often this process in our mind starts with some vitakka. We have a signal, but we need to have an argument, a logic in our mind, and then based on that logic, we have a discussion internally. And to me, I think Buddha is referring to this very profound sort of vivada and vitakka and prapancha, which is in your head, compared to a mere quarreling and an argument. And I could add a little more later on as we go in the discussion. So that's what I wanted to say about the prapancha and vivada.
Yeah. No, thank you, Bhante Ananda. I think you brought up a very interesting point of this, the sutra. How this vivada, and I think even if we translate this sutra as the discourse of the quarreling or fighting, it doesn't give the real meaning of the teachings contained in that sutra. So I think this is the internal conflict that Buddha is referring to. It's not the external one, because internal conflict has the impact on the external one. So it's here, I think he's referring to how we can be mindful of these the conflicts or arising in the mind, and how we can end them with understand, with insight, with pañña. And I think I was just reflecting deeply, reading the sutra several times, like pappañca, how the proliferation or objectification, whatever the translation we have, maybe this is how we experience something, feel something, and how we begin to do the overthinking, So maybe this is something to do with that kind of overthinking, like how we are thinking too much and relating it to some other experiences from the past and the present and the future, something like that. So we can actually share more on this. I see Venerable Shanta Sobana from Los Angeles raised his hand. I'm looking forward to hearing your insights, but I would like to welcome Venerable Muniputtu joining the discussion from Hawaii. And Venerable Bhikkhu Nalaka joined the discussion from an amazing Kuti in California. And Bhante Pesala joined the discussion from Sri Lanka. So welcome. Venerable Shanta Sobana.
Oh, thank you very much, Honorable Sirs, and really appreciate giving this opportunity for me. And actually, when it comes to the sutras, this is one of the very key sutra that we can find in our teachings, because all the sutras is kind of like informations. And through this discussion, we can develop the knowledge, and then after that knowledge, we have to bring it to wisdom. So it is our own responsibility. So that is the way that we have to build up this. So when it comes to this sutra, and if we look at the background, that I think Dandapani had a very friendly discussion with the Buddha, because especially whoever come to Buddha and asks this kind of question, he need to be so comfortable with that person. Otherwise, they're not going to answer. That is the one of the important thing with the Buddha's character, because whoever come to him, and it's give more opportunities to be comfortable. And Dandapani asked this question because of maybe that when it comes to spiritual practice, we always depending from something or somebody. And especially for our liberation, for our salvation, we still, even in this society, sometimes we always look something ahead from us, beyond us. So that's why maybe Dandapani is what is the contemplative doctrine of your practice. And then the Buddha said there is no such a thing like that. So, but in the beginning, maybe the Dandapani got confused, and that's why maybe he, and at the same time, what the Buddha told, maybe he understood, and he knew it is so difficult. Maybe that's why he react like that way. And somehow, when it can come to this kind of situations or the conflict in our society, this all arises because of our self-centered view. So that self-centered view, we think it is the right thing. So I am right. So, but we don't see how we came to that kind of position or the situation, because that whatever our five perceptions and our five organs with the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, whatever, we always depending from objects. And even for the mind, when the mind depending from object as ideas, and maybe we hold that as right, but sometimes we don't see from where that idea came. So then when we think it is the right thing, then we always start to stand for that and fight for that. But this sutra deeply explain when it comes to situation in our day-to-day life, even that developing this self-centered experience or the self-centered view or the idea of I am, it itself is just another idea. So understanding that, giving us it's kind of like give us an opportunity to reinvent ourselves again. So we have to be very careful what we think or whatever the ideas build inside us, because sometimes we think that is the right thing, that is the correct thing, but maybe it also the part of the wrong idea. So if we have that kind of observation, that it will help us to not to, even though we come with ideas, it not help allow us to hold and fight with it. So there was a beautiful story when we learn about this sutra in a school, Pirivana, one time we discussed that story about Rabindranath Tagore.
Uh-huh.
When he was a child, he used to play with other children. And there was another child, and he had some difficulties with his eyes, and his eyeglasses fell down. So then the Rabindranath Tagore, he took it, and before he gave back to his friend, he put it himself.
Mm.
And then he saw everything different. And then he gave back to his friend, and he went home. Then he talked to his mother and told, "Mother, there was something happened today." Mother asked, "What happened?"
Mm.
"No, my friend, and he had these eyeglasses. And when I put it today, I saw something different. Everything so clear, beautiful." Then the mother knew, oh, this Rabindranath Tagore also need eyeglasses. So it's a kind of like that, what we see, what we hear, what we experience with this all the perception.
Mm.
It's a kind of like another tendency that we build up within ourselves.
Mm.
So the same thing may be happening with other person also, but ourselves, how we come to understand this is the exactly right thing. Because when we hold up with our own ideas, it makes us blind. So that lead us to conflict. And when we look at today around the world, even though as human beings, we went through a lot of experience and we have the knowledge, but still look, when it comes to situations, when it comes to people's ideas, still there are egocentric, self-centered ideas always govern the society or the situations or the environment. So still we not able to understand this going to be all the time. So then it is our personal responsibility, rather than arguing with others or fighting with others, to be very careful regarding our own view. Why? Because maybe it is the kind of illusion that we build up ourselves.
Mm.
So when it come to it, it is, rather than holding it to, it is my idea, if we come to see how it happens in its natural process. As example, in the sutra deeply explained, when it come to I, it is not my I. The I object and the I, and wherever that any I has, if there is any I, has ability to contact with the I object, and the I consciousness going to arise. It is not my consciousness. It is the very natural process. So when it comes to ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, this whatever, the object contact with that, the consciousness going to arise. It happened in the past, it happened today, and it's going to happen in the future. It will happen here, even in the mass. If anybody go there, and if there is an I, and if it contact with the object, then the I consciousness going to arise. So there is no such a person going to be there. So, and in that way, if we become a little bit careful and understand how this happening to us and what we experience, from where that experience come, we will see it's deeply come from our own mind. And when it comes through our own mind and from our own inclinations or the tendencies, and it may going to become right for me, but maybe it's not going to right for another person. So if we have that understanding, we always give an opportunity for other people. So in the conventional life, even though we share things like this way, in the depth of this all, there is nothing that we can claim as me or my or I am. So that will release us from this grasping or the holding or the clinging nature. So that will give the freedom. So that freedom is the most beautiful thing if anyone can experience. That's why it's called that Madhupiṇḍika. It's a honey bowl. So I have something to show. So what is called? So this is the honey. So if any person, from any direction, if it is taste, it gives the same taste.
Is that the real honey?
Real honey. In any direction, if anybody taste it, it gives the same taste. So same like if anyone come to understand I object and I consciousness and how it arises, it gives the wisdom to all this ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, how this consciousness arises. The same thing. There's no any different. And if any person have the ability to understand with, that person have ability to understand form, feeling, perception, volition, and recognition, how it arises. When we have that understanding within ourselves, and it gives the ability to understand how this entire, the human mind work. So it will give a deeper clarity about the samsara, or what is the meaning of this becoming. So in that way, if we have that understanding, it releases the grasping, and it releases the idea of our own, this is me, or I am, or this is my idea. It is not about deeply that quarreling or fighting or going to conflict with other people. We have deeper inside us, within our own mind, we have different thoughts moment by moment. As a result of that, what happens, we bring our bodily, verbally, mentally actions to the outside world. So I think this sutra gives a deeper, the more clarity regarding this, the self-centered idea, how hold us. And finally, if that, what does this mean? We all go through suffering, unsatisfaction, and difficulties. And most of the time we think it's come from another person, from another thing. But this sutra will explain us, this sutra that very clearly shows us, we get punished for our own thoughts, not because of somebody else.
It's because of the multiplication of our own thoughts, thinking too much. Interesting. Thank you, Venerable Shantasobana, beautifully explaining the essence of Madhupiṇḍika Sutta. I hope we all can do the same reflection, same contemplation to end our own internal conflicts. Well, I know you are going to share more thoughts, more insights with us, with our audience. And also, I really love the story of Rabindranath Tagore. and also how you have shown us, like, once you end the conference, that how you can enjoy the madhu, the honey from all sides. Very beautiful. Bhikkhu Nalaka from California, you're staying at a beautiful, simple kuti in California somewhere. Venerable Nalaka, what are your thoughts?
Sadhu, can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I've been away for quite some time. I've been in the mountains at a Korean Zen community for about a half a year with weak Wi-Fi and no data, so I haven't been able to chime in on these sessions. So I'm happy to share my presence. And I must admit, I haven't read this sutta in quite some time, but the term pappañca is really what stood out. I first came across this concept in early Buddhism through Ajahn Panisaro, Sadhu, for his translation and commentary. But prior to that, I was exposed to this concept in Tibetan Buddhism. They talk a lot about conceptual elaboration and proliferation of mind. Then later I found out that's rooted in early Buddhism, this term, this teaching on pappañca. And it's amazing, just briefly glossing through this sutra, that we have Paticca Samuppada here. And as with all authentic Dhamma, everything is interrelated and interdependent. You can segue into any aspect of the Dhamma, beginning with any aspect of the Dhamma. So practically, going back to the Satipatthana, that's a way to cut right through pappañca, the conceptual elaboration, the proliferation of mental formations. Just knowing, bare awareness there is a body. Bare awareness there is thinking, an aspect of the mind. Bare awareness there are feelings. In the conversation, I want to dominate the conversation. I want my thought to be right. I want to be heard more than others, right? When that happens, there's no bare awareness of the mind, right? So feelings, etc. So the Dhamma is so practical and so powerful, you can cut right through, just through a thorough understanding of any authentic teaching given by Buddha. And this is one of the most powerful ones here, is pappañca. You cannot have any of the problems highlighted in this, the Ball of Honey Sutta, if you have that clear, bare awareness, which comes from the Satipatthana, which cuts right through, which is Tibetan Buddhist symbolized through Manjushri. For those of you who are familiar with that, it started out in Tibetan Buddhism. So it's beautiful to see how the Dhamma is connected. Just from the little bit I have ascertained from this sutta, seeing how it's connected with other aspects of the Dhamma, proving that this is an authentic teaching of the historical Buddha, and perhaps one of the most important concepts to understand, a concept that cuts through other concepts, if you will. So I just wanted to chime in a little bit and share my insight on this crucial aspect of this sutta, namely pappañca, and how that is the heart of it all here.
Yeah. Thank you, Venerable Nalaka. It's actually, you brought up a very important aspect of this teaching, how even Satipatthana the practice of Satipatthana could help end this pappañca. And I also see there's a comment from Bhante Uparatana. It says, "Dear Venerable, please explain the pappañca and nippappañca for us." We will get there. And I think right at the beginning of this sutra, where Buddha himself explains to Dandapani, when he asks, "What do you teach? What is the essence of your philosophy?" And Buddha made it very simple for him. "Friend, I assert and proclaim such a teaching that one does not quarrel with anyone in the world with its gods, its Maras and Brahmas. In this generation, with its recluses and Brahmins, its princes and its people." So I think this is the very interesting teaching, the essence of this sutra, where he says, "Oh, well, if you want me to tell you what I really teach, I teach something that does not harm anyone." Now, if we harm people, I think this is where we have to build up our discussion, like how then, why do we hurt people? Why do we harm people? Because of all these internal conflicts, because of all these pappañcas, proliferations, overthinking, objectifications, thinking too much, and bringing all the craps and garbage into our head, which is causing a lot of defilements, kilesas to arise in the mind. As I can see, this is it causes raga, the passion, the desire to arise, the patigha, the aversion, hatred arises. Then ditti, there are all kinds of views and perspectives come into being. Then there's vicikicca, we are always doubting. And then there's the mana, there's the I'm bigger than you, I'm better than you. Who think you are, So and then the bhavaraga, because of this, that we get attached to all these experiences, and then all this is also feeding the avidya, the ignorance. So, so I think this is something to think about. I don't know, maybe our venerables could explain more on this, or feel free to make it much simpler for our audience. I see Bhante Kusala raise his hand. Bhante Kusala.
Thank you, Bhante. So nippappañca, I think, speaks about nibbana, place that is free from proliferation. And pappañca is a defiled state of mind. And let's go to the Sutra. I like what Bhante Karnapal highlighted moments ago about that no one, like in this world with its maras, brahmas, get into a conflict argument. The sutra goes also to say that yato nidanang bhikkhu purisam pappañca sanya sankha samuda charanti. This is where the word is introduced. Yato nidanang purisam, covered with whatever these things, the person, pappañca, the proliferation, sanya, perception, sankha, the identity, designation, samuda charanti. Like I said earlier, people are opinionated. People have conclusions about other people and situations. For a very simple example, my father monk recently visited my sister, and my father monk said it's not good to keep dogs in the house. Opinionated, It's not good because, when you die, you may think of a dog, and therefore you may also be born as a dog. So and I asked him, where did you get that idea? He said, I listened to a Dhamma talk, and that's what he said. It's not good to keep dogs at home. Opinionated. So, but should we now abandon all these dogs and not feed them? So practically, we can't really live like that, Just because someone throws an opinion at us, we can't get into a situation where now we have to decide which way to live. That's not how the world works. So because it starts with yato nidanam, we have to now go find the source of that yato, in Pali grammar. It's speaking about this place, ettache natti abhinanditabbam. Here we don't find anything that needs to take as pleasure, nothing to pleasurize ourselves with. That's about nibbana. Abhivaditabbam, something to welcome as, this is to be taken, welcome. And ajjositabbam, they are, I think, getting attached with. Ajjositabbam. So they are esevanto, when there is nothing to delight in, no pleasure to take in, whether it is in the eye or ear or nose, tongue, body, or any experience. When there is no pleasure taken, esevanto raga anusaya. This is the end of underlying tendency to lust. So anusaya is a very critical term here. It is very well explained by Bhante Gunaratana from his own life experience when he lived at, right behind his kuti at Bhavana Society, someone planted bamboo, and Bhante Ji said, don't do it, it will block my view. But this person didn't listen to Bhante, and he planted it anyway, and within a year this bamboo covered the window, and Bhante Ji could not see anything behind the window. And then Bhante Gunaratana said to this person, see what has happened. now this is covering my window. So this person removed all the bamboo, but within a short time, it came back. That's the nature of bamboo. And this person then brought a bulldozer and removed all the bamboo, and within a short time, it came back to life again. And this is the nature of underlying tendencies. When there is something underlying, something that can bring up lust, it is waiting for that opportunity, it comes back. And then Bhante Gunaratana told this to this lady who went with a small shovel and went inch by inch and found about a 2 feet long root buried in there. When that was taken out, there was no more bamboo. So this is the work that we will be doing in meditation, to go find that root, what is causing this, where this arises, where the craving arises. So that's how we get into craving. This is talking about removal of that same craving, where you don't take delight in, you don't welcome them, and welcome these defilements. This is going to be the end of raga anusaya, any underlying. So anusaya, these are called underlying tendencies, like that bamboo root, something that is deeply buried, and that has been uprooted. So raga ends. Esevanto patigha anusaya. Patigha anusayanam. End of aversion. Esevanto ditthanusayana. This is the end of views. Self-view and any other views, like in Metta Sutta, you say dittincha anupagama, without falling into any views. Esevanto vichikichanusayam. This is the end of doubt. Doubt is a hindrance. And ending of hindrance means you are in a jhana state or beyond. When it's like putting concrete in that place where there is bamboo, and there's no chance for it to arise. But bamboo has the power to even break through concrete and come to life. So therefore, the concrete here is complete uprooting of your defilement, craving. Any chance for craving to arise has been eradicated. Esevanto mana anusayam. Mana is conceit. So this is going to be the end of anta, is end of mana, underlying tendency to conceit. Esevanto bhavaraga anusayana. Any underlying tendency for planes of existence as a human being, divine being, Brahma being, or any superior or inferior being, this is going to be the end. Esevanto avijjanusayana. This is going to be the end of ignorance, any underlying tendency for ignorance. Esevanto dandadana. So dandadana is taking weapon. Taking a weapon. Why do we take a weapon? It's to harm someone, because we have an opinion. Sattha. Sattha is sharp weapons like a sword. So esevanto, any of these weapons, there is no purpose of in Kalaha Vivada Sutta, the Buddha says, the world argues with me, but I don't argue with the world. And the world argues with the weapons of words. These words can cut someone. So words are so powerful. And when words are sweet, because words become sweet when it has been touched with that honey that Bhante Santa Sobhana showed, wherever you have, your heart has touched that kind of ending of proliferation, nippappañca state. You are a sweet person. There's no reason for you to use the weapons of words to argue with the rest of the world, or with your own self, be critical of your own self. It quickly vanishes because of your realization, and that your sweetness, the sweetness of the nature that you have realized. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah. No, thank you, Bhante Kusala, for explaining more in detail, actually, regarding this conflict, the pappañca And I think even that story of Bhante Ji, the bamboo tree, how it started growing, and unless we completely remove this latent tendency known in Pali as the anusaya, it will keep coming back. So I think in this sutra we are learning how these underlying tendencies like raga, patiga, ditti, vicikicca, mana, bhava, vidya have an impact on as a cause of the conflict internally and externally. Even I think looking into the modern world, the psychological game being played by all these super economies in the world, powerful countries, so and it's coming from these egos, lamana, and it's come from the ignorance. So it's also impacting the people around the world. So I think we have to bring more awareness of this sutra to the people, especially those who are who think they are the world police. They should be reflecting on this sutra more often. Next, Bhante Pesala from Sri Lanka. You have been patiently waiting, raising your hand. So what are your thoughts on today's discussion of Bhante Pesala?
There was a night to all. Bhante, hope you can hear me well.
Yes, it's very clear, please.
Bhante, this is one of the best and important sutra. It's, when we go through the complete sutra, it gives us the, complete the path of liberation. And in this sutra, the most important two aspects, like the word pappañca is the most important word. And Buddha said, when pappañca arises in our mind, ettache natti abhinanditabbang, abhivaditabbang, and ajjosetabbang. That means when prapanchas arises in our mind, we shouldn't be attached to them. So that is the thing. So even in the under Four Noble Truth, it says that we have to remove the attachment. As the second noble truth, we must give up the attachment. So but from the outer world, from the outside, when we see the noble truth, the Buddha asks us to stay without getting attached. But when we practice, the attach arises due to the ignorance. That means the Buddha said due to the ignorance or the avidya, we attach to things. So attachment arises within us because of the ignorance. So to remove that ignorance, the Buddha further explained the meaning of the pappañca here. So the prapancha, and to understand the prapancha, that's a very subtle thing in this sutta, and without going through the commentaries, we cannot have a correct translation, correct meaning for prapancha. Actually, the prapancha is here, tanha ditti mana. Due to tanha, means due to the craving, we have the mental aspect, like we tend to things like which are belongs to us. This is mind. That is arises our mind because of the tanha. Then the other one is ditti. Ditti means this is my soul. That comes because of the ditti. And the other one is this is me. Me. That is comes because of the mana. So those three aspects, especially those are mental concomitants. Those are known as tanha ditti mana. Those are the prapanchas. So due to those prapanchas, and we don't know about then the ignorance going on in our mind. That's why we begin to think like this is myself and this is me, these are minds, and this is my soul. In that way we tend to think because we don't know about prapanchas. So, and the other one is, the most important thing is anusaya here. Anusaya mean, it explained there are 7 types of anusayas. Those are known as latent tendencies of the mind. So, latent tendency is known as anusaya. They are the defilements which are in the which are not active in the mind, which are hidden. We cannot find easily. Even the other teachings, except from the Buddhism, they can. There are 3 stages of these defilements. The anusaya stage is the most subtle one that we cannot directly experience. Only by going through the vipassana meditation, only we can deal with this anusaya. So then, the next stage is known as pariyutthana. That means, when our mind don't recognize the anusaya stages, the pariyutthana come into being. Like pariyutthana means the defilements which arises the mind. That's why the anger begin to arise in the mind because of the anusayas. So when the anger develop furthermore, it will come as a vyatikramana. Vyatikramana means we try to blame others, we try to hit others, by bodily and by through the speech we try to do unwholesome karmas. So the question, especially this Dandapani Sakya, asked from the Buddha, because this Dandapani Sakya was a relative of the Devadatta Thera, and he was trying to make an argument with the Buddha. At that time, Buddha said, since he have understood the true nature of the world, he is not going to argue with anyone. So he was trying to make an argument with the Buddha, but he failed at that time. And the further explained in the Kaccāna Thero, when he's explaining how the pappañca arises, he gave us a beautiful explanation that he said about the 6 sense bases, Bhante, and it says so vataso chakkusmin sati rupe sati chakku viññāne sati passa paññatti paññāpessatiti thānametang vijjati. It says, now friends, when there is the eye and the form and the eye consciousness, a manifestation of contact can be discerned. It is possible for these to occur. Then further said, passa paññattiya sati vedana paññatti paññāpessatiti thānametang vijjati. That means, when there is the manifestation of contact, a manifestation of feeling can be discerned. It is possible for this to occur. And it says further, Vedana paññattiya sati saññā paññattim paññāpessatiti thānametang vijjati. When there is the manifestation of sensation or the feeling, a manifestation of perception can be discerned. It is possible for this to occur. And further said, saññā paññattiya sati vitakka paññattim paññāpessatiti thānametang vijjati. That means, when there is the manifestation of perception, manifestation of thinking can be discerned. It is possible for this to occur. And vitakka paññattiya sati pappañca saññā saṅkhā samudācarana paññattim paññāpessatiti thānametang vijjati. When there is the manifestation of thinking, a manifestation of assault by proliferation of conception and perception can be discerned. It is possible for this to occur. So this is how prapañca arises in our mind. When there is eye, form and eye consciousness, contact arises. Passapacca vedana, when the contact is there, when the feeling is arises. When the feeling is there, vedana pacca saññā yang vedettan sanjanati. When one feel something, it gives the perception. Then like after perception, it is the thinking, and all the prapañcas arises in the mind. And the Kaccāna theory further said then how prapañca will not arise in the mind. He said, so watauso chakkusmin asati, rupe asati, chakku viññāne asati, passa paññattin paññāpessati netanṭhānaṁ vijati. The Kaccāna theory very beautifully explained that. Now friends, when there is no I and no form, no I consciousness, it is not possible to discern the manifestation of contact. So when there is no manifestation of contact, it is not possible to discern the manifestation of feeling. And when there is no manifestation of feeling, it is not possible to discern the manifestation of perception. When there is no manifestation of perception, it is not possible to discern the manifestation of thinking. And when there is no manifestation of thinking, it is not possible to discern the manifestation of assault by assault by proliferation of conception and perception can be discerned. It is possible for this to occur. This is how he just unfold how to stay without making any prapañcas in the mind. When the prapañca arises in the mind, and we know the nature of the prapañcas, how it arises, because then when we know the prapañcas, how it arises and how are they diseased, how they are diseased in the mind, then we can stay without attaching to them. So the most beautiful part here, Bhante, then it is said, when there is no I and no forms, no I consciousness, so then that has to be understood very deeply. So in another sutra, the Buddha said, like Bahya Sutra, ditte dittamattam bhavisati, sute sutamattam bhavisati, viññāte viññātamattam bhavisati. So actually now our feeling is like we are having the eyes, and we can observe things which are away from the eye. So likewise, that is the wrong perception. So actually the what's happening here is just a process, like like the eye, like the forms, and like the eye consciousness, we think those are objects. But actually, Bhante, when we deeply concerned and when we deeply go through the Dhamma, we could see that everything is causes and effects, like Hetupala Dhamma, arising and disappearing. That process is going on. That has to be carefully understand. Suppose, Bhante, for an example, if you take suppose laptop or something, we give it a name like a laptop. Why we say the machine as a laptop? Because we can doing something. I mean, we can communicate in this way, and we can make presentation, we can do lots of things. So we say laptop for that object, because there is a we can use in that laptop to get that uses. Suppose the laptop is there, and I cannot use that one because it is I cannot use that one. Suppose it is, if it is broken, we cannot say it as a laptop, because now it cannot be used. So similarly, though we name this machine as the laptop, actually we give the designation as the laptop for the processes, like the typing and presentation and communication. All those are processes. All those processes are known as the object. Similarly, our eye is now we understand as a thing, as the object, but eye actually within the eye it's kind of a process going on. Similar thing happen in the forms, and similar thing happen in the consciousness also. In Bhante, I see that Western scholars beautifully explain about the consciousness. They said consciousness is like a stream of consciousness. Suppose that means it's kind of a river. In the river, stream of water is going on. Suppose we take for an example, we take a famous river in the world like Amazon or something like that. So we can, under conventional truth, we can name that river as the Amazon River. But when you go into, ultimate reality, we cannot see the same river twice, because always the water is flowing at a higher rate. Water is flowing, so we cannot touch the same water twice. So though we generally talked as the Amazon River, ultimately we cannot find a true Amazon River. So similarly, this eye also the same. Though we named as think this is as an eye, this is a process. The process is just seeing. That's why Buddha, that Mahā Sutra said, ditte dittamattam bhavisati, sute sutamattam bhavisati, mute mutamattam bhavisati, viññāte viññātamattam bhavisati. It talks about these 6 senses bases. So that's why when we know the vipassana, that means we know the impermanence nature. So because of that impermanence nature, it's dukkha. It common to we through our sense bases. Sometimes we get the happiness, sometimes we get the sadness, and sometimes we get the neutral experiences. All those experiences are arising and disappearing. So like a stream, like the stream. So when we develop this kind of wisdom, then we identify how prapañcas arises in our mind. When at that time we don't have the ignorance. Then when there is no ignorance, then vijja that means we have the vipassana or the vijja. At that time we can stay without attaching anything. In that way, Bhante, we should develop our we should be stay without attaching to those prapañcas. So that is my explanation, Bhante.
So beautiful. You have taken us to this way of how to overcome these prapañcas step by step. So what I get from this is that it's a vipassana, understanding the 3 forms of existence, trilakshana. We can see the anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So this understanding, this wisdom will help us to remove all the prapañcas, proliferations from our mind. This is the way to become experience nippappañca, something like that.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. I know Venerable Tridal, you raised your hand and then you disappeared. Are you here? You have to unmute yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. Salutations to all the venerables. It's been 3 weeks. We have reconvened. Thank you, Venerable Saranampala, for taking us with you on your journey digitally. You're such a hero to so many people, and congratulations on your new book. Obviously, you beat me to it because I had to terminate the contract. I couldn't finish my book. It was only at 40%. Today's discussion about this had my head spinning a little bit. I had to I guess after quite some time of practice, a Buddhist monk becomes so simple. And when turning back to the suttas, some suttas can really do a number on your mind and the analytical and psychological part of the suttas. What I like to invite everyone to reflect on is that certain people are really analytical. Is the same that Venerable Santa Sobana said about the me, the my, and the I, the practice of the non-self in the Anatta Sutta. I think sometimes people don't realize that, well, number one, we're blind to us and we're blind to the things that we do. Sometimes we don't know how much we are attached to ourselves. We just don't know these things. That's why it's good and important to choose a good teacher to oversee your practice, because the teacher can tell you, and we teachers can tell you when you're overthinking. when you're blowing things out of proportion, and when you are jumping to conclusions without evidence. The mind, the evolution of the mind has become more complicated, more difficult to track, more difficult to notice, and more difficult to track. The modern day teacher also has to evolve with the modern day students in order to meet them where they're at, and in order to assist them taming their own mind, tame those who needs to be tamed. But you see, we teachers are not at war with the students. We're not at war with you. We are at war with your mind, with your mind. Some of the manifestations of the atta, the ego, comes in many forms. It comes by and through body language. When you're talking to another human being, it comes off in the voice. There are little tiny things that a teacher can, in fact, pick up cues and clues about the student to let them know that your ego has not mitigated. Your ego has not lessened. Your ego has proliferated. Your ego has continued on a force continuum. The momentum of your ego is quite strong, compelling, not conducive for meditation, not conducive for this practice at this time. Therefore, to think simply, we must be very aware, by and through the reports of other people, how our ego affects the day-to-day encounters with people. I hope this is all making sense. The defilements, right? Mindfulness about the little things in life, mindfulness about finding each defilement one by one. Writing them down helps you see it. Mindfulness of your habits. You got to use all of these things that science is assisting us in order to bring to light, shine a light on each singular defilements and see the dangers in the smallest mistakes. Dangers in the smallest mistakes of frequency and recency of your behavior, of your thinking, how you judge other people, how you label things, looking at the aggregates, right? Looking at the dependent origination. So, it's these are good reminders. These type of suttas are good reminders in slowing down, being aware. And if the reports of other people who have told you and all, and you and many, oh, you think you know it all. Oh, you judge a lot. Oh, you do this. There may be some truth to that. You should consider it. When you think that everyone is wrong, well, that's where we get ourselves into trouble. So again, it's like my professors told me, when someone says something is worth concerned over, you should reply, tell me more, right? And not be quick to judge. So slowing down a little bit, taking some time to process, leads one to not step on too many thorns in life on the path to identifying your mind and the defilements, each singular defilements that could add up to the totality of the defilements that could make your path a little harder. But I just wanted to contribute that much. Obviously, this can stretch quite long. We're just compressing it a little bits and big pieces from different monks. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Rudel. Making it very simple for people to think about this internal conflict. Bante Sumedha from Ottawa. You raised your hand. I assume you have something to share with us.
Yeah, so most honorable Bante Sarnaparatero. So thank you so much giving this opportunity to share some thoughts in terms of mental drawbacks that was promulgated by the Buddha. So actually I couldn't able to read that particular sutta we have discussed already today. Yes, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to elaborate about that particular sutta, but I just recall one of the another sutta with regarding the conflict and violence emotions inside and outside. That was the name by Jata Sutta. That is very famous sutta in Samyutta Nikaya in compounded discourse. So that particular sutta in Jata Sutta, one of the god wanted to ask from the Buddha, what are the reasons for the inside and outside conflict and violence thoughts. So, and then asking that question, the Buddha was given very good answer for that God, which was the answer is Sile patittahaya naro sapanyo chittang paññañca bhavayang atapi nippako bhikkhu soimang vijate jatang. So one who has enough wisdom based on morality, that person would be able to improve his own wisdom and mind, right? Based on morality, that would be resolving inner conflict and violence thoughts from the human body. Because as a anthropocentric philosophy, the Buddhism elaborate us men to see inside and from inside to outside world, right? That was the main focus by the Buddha. The importance of studying and teaching this type of formulas for the resolvement of conflict management, actually. So I'm not going to explain a lot of things. Time is going away. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sumedha. It's another short discourse of the Buddha to reflect on how we can end our own internal conflicts. I think it's very beautiful and powerful short discourse. Thank you for bringing our attention to that sutra. We are going to end the discussion with the Venerable Shanta Sobhana. I want to give you an opportunity to elaborate more on this.
So please, thank you very much. And I want to bring this idea about the pappañca. It is very beautiful. Our Uparatana Nayaka Hamdru asked about it. This is the very simple way. Expanding the world with the ideas is pappañca. You know, so the very good example is with this, this cell phone. As we all know, when the cell phone came to world, in the beginning it was wire, then it became wireless. We call it, it's like a gadulbag, a half a brick, but now see, so many apps now. So this is what the pappañca, because expanding the world with ideas, concept, and defining the world. So when it comes to that, and if anyone have any idea that holding to that idea and start to bring with different opinion, concept with that idea is going to be the pappañca. So what I want to tell that whoever listen this and how you can get the help out of this sutra, one of the important, don't afraid to get a second opinion regarding your situation. Always going to second opinion. And other thing is, don't afraid to be kind of like a judge from someone, because everyone going to judge us. It is okay. If you are right, then it is okay. People going to see you right. And if you are wrong, that way also people going to see you wrong. So if anyone judge us, if that person is qualified to judge us, that is good. So I learned it from martial art, because when we go to competitions, always there is a judge. And why? Because whatever we can see, that we can't see, they can see. So that's why there are a lot of blind spots we carry in within us and we can't see. So sometimes our friend or the husband, wife, children, then other people can see that. So it is okay to get opinion. Finally, this is the important thing. When it comes to our concept ideas, we most of us deeply bound to the language. So learn to change the definition. Then you will get out of the tangle.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sopana. What I get from pappañca and nippappañca, having the smartphone is pappañca, getting rid of my smartphones is nippappañca. Because all these smartphones have all kinds of apps, all kinds of informations, and people are basically attached to them. That's why they are not even having enough sleep, because they are passing time going from one app to another app. As you all know, social media, these are Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. People are jumping from one timeline to another timeline. So it's causing a lot of damage to the mind, and that's why we are, I think, having these internal conflicts. So I never thought about that, so I got something from that, how we are using the smartphones, and this is the real pappañca. I don't know, Bhante Upanatana, whether you got it now. Thank you. So thank you, Venerable Sirs, for sharing your insights and telling us the stories with examples, and expanding on this sutra, explaining the essence of the sutra for the spiritual benefit of all. And I just want to invite Bhante Uparatanaik to recite the Ovada Patimokkha verses. But before that, there's a comment made by Radhika Besekar Bhante. There's a book I wrote on Madhupiṇḍika Sutta is on my web. It is based on my views. I will greatly appreciate a few comments from venerable monks who may have some time later. It's on a website called dhammadenna.com. So if you would like to read, please feel free to visit that website. It's on our this Zoom chat. You can find the websites. All right, so I would like to respectfully invite Bhante Uparatana to recite the Ovada Patimokkha verses.
Thank you, Venerable Sangha, Mahasangha, and giving your effort, your energy, and good Dhamma thought. And it's a wonderful sermon for the discussions. Wish you long life and good health. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sabba papassa akaranam kusalassa upasampada. Sacitta pariyodapanam etam buddhana sasanam. Kanti paraman tapotitikka nibbanam paramang vadanti buddha. Nahi pabjito parupagati samano hoti parang vihetayanto. Anupavado anupagato patimokkhecha sangvaro. Matanyuta cha bhattasming pantancha sayanasanang. adhicitteca ayogo etang buddhana sasanang.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Pratanakandru, for beautiful reciting these Ovaṭapātimukha verses. And we feel very calm, very relaxed. Thank you so much. So it was another productive discussion we had today. And once again, I would like to express my gratitude with respect to all the Venerable monks for your great contribution. And by the grace and power of the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, may you all be blessed with good health, long life, so that you can continue this kind of great services for the great well-being of the human beings. I'm also very grateful to our lay participants for joining the Zoom platform and Facebook Live. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm hoping to see all of you in 2 weeks' time. Until then, all of you be blessed with all the blessings of the Buddha. And good night from Toronto, Canada. Thank you.